Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
What is up? What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter. Super excited to be here talking about 1960s Psycho, directed obviously by Alfred Hitchcock. And this is the kickoff to this series that I've literally been wanting to get into and wanting to do since I started this thing a couple years back. This is like one of the inspirations for why I wanted to start this channel. Road to Halloween, where we're going to be going over the evolution of the slasher genre, following the tropes and the things that kind of led us to John Carpenter's 1978 classic Halloween. With me, Stu from Dr. Doom's fan club, the missing link. What up, my friends? Appreciate you guys being here.
What up, bro? Glad to be here.
Excited, yeah. You know, I real quick, I think it's because we've talked about how the idea of this so much about it being an evolution. Like when did Robbie stream Monday, and I was buzzed, as I often am. But I fucked up on the name. I was like, I think it's like the evolution to slasher or Halloween, or is like, but that's like I think the idea.
Mhm.
But yeah, I fucked up on the name. But
I'm stealing this from, and I've said this a handful of times, from a podcast, The Evolution of Horror, where this is what they do on the series or on that podcast, is they'll take a subgenre and then they'll study the evolution of it. And they started with the slasher. And for what that hooked me in more than almost anything into getting into horror, like as deep as I have, just like studying the tropes and just being able to go back through the history of it and be able to appreciate, like, okay, this is where that came from or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a big part of it is like, and I have this thing titled, "Is Psycho the First Slasher?" If you had asked me in the past, I was always like, I don't know why people call it a slasher. I'm like, they call it a slasher because someone gets stabbed with a knife. To me, it's not a slasher. But like the deeper I get into horror, the more I kind of learn about it. It's like there's so many subgenres of the subgenre of slasher.
yeah,
And this is one that's like, Halloween is what I think a lot of people think of as the prototypical slasher, the teen slasher, group of friends,
Yes.
mass killer, maybe supernatural, picking
The
teens off
blueprint.
one by one, final girl, all the tropes that we're super familiar with. And this doesn't have that. But even this time going back and rewatching it, I see more and more of like why so many people do call it a slasher. It damn near is, and it's just more indicative of a lot of movies that I might not have considered a slasher before, but a lot of people do, is like Maniac and American Psycho for something more modern, or Pearl
Yeah.
for something even more modern, where it's this killer perspective slasher movie. But this Psycho is, in some ways, it's like the most complex and interesting of all. Like, killer perspective ones tend to be the more interesting of the slashers.
I think that's what a great slasher film does. Is like a really a profound statement on like the American psyche. You know what I mean? And like this movie is successful in that way in every respect, I think.
I think that's why it's so cool. It's more than just the set pieces. It's the inner workings of Norman Bates's mind. And that's what I think, like American Psycho and Pearl, and Maniac, like those.
Yeah, I'm glad
they're a lot more interesting than your more like Friday the 13th ones, obviously.
Well, yeah, I think before Friday the 13th or Halloween, there was like that. Those were like the blueprints for the modern slasher, you know. Yes. And up until that point, it was figuring itself out. But I just wanted to say, I'm glad you brought up American Psycho real quick, because you know, I've often strongly said I don't really feel like that's a horror, you know. But after watching this film, yeah, you pick up nuances. It's like that recontextualized. I haven't seen this in a while, but rewatching this, it recontextualized certain films for me. Like American Psycho is one where it's like, that is a horror, you know, because they're doing what they did in this movie. Essentially, it was a 2000s version of Psycho in a way, you know.
No, totally. I'm sure that's where it got its name from.
Yeah.
So this is the list, though. This is what we'll be doing. Obviously, we're starting here with Psycho. Peeping Tom, which we'll be doing next week, actually came out like a handful of months before Psycho. So a lot of
I had
people
a
could
question.
argue it is like the first slasher, but Psycho is the one that more people have seen, and it kind of influenced and inspired more directors after this one.
Because I haven't seen Peeping Tom, but I had a quick because I remember the list, and when there's a scene in Psycho, without getting too far ahead, when he does his first little view hole, that I was like, when did Peeping Tom come out? Like, did they pick that? Was they inspired by that? Is there anything like that going on in Peeping Tom?
If I had to guess, just like the time that it took to make Psycho, I don't think Hitchcock had seen Peeping Tom before he made this, and he definitely didn't. The book was written in 1959. This is loosely based on a book of the same title from 1959.
Okay, and
It's called Robert Bloch. I had his name. Where's his name? Yeah, Robert Bloch, 1959 book. There's certain differences. They really like a lot of the things that make Psycho really interesting. They changed from the book. Mainly that Norman Bates in the book is this overweight guy in his 40s who's an alcoholic, kind of like me, other than the alcoholic part, though I am drinking beer. And he's like less likable. There's none of the sympathetic qualities that Norman Bates has, which is a huge part of what makes this movie unsettling for people, is that they have sympathy for the guy that's doing this. And then the other big thing is that it doesn't start with Marion Crane. It starts with Norman Bates. So he's kind of your perspective character from the get-go, which is the other like huge factor in this one. And of course, there's Madison right away.
But it's to go off riff off that. I do agree. I think like that I didn't know that bit about the book, but I think that could have been like why this movie was so profound, was that it showed that psychopaths can be. I mean, people probably had heard it, but I think this was like the first exposure of like they can be charming as shit, blend right in. You never know that it's the creep right next door to you and shit like that.
Right. You don't have to be wearing a Michael Myers mask. This is the third show now that I've done since my wife went back to days. I'm like, oh, thank God. I don't have to have the toddler busted in during every show. And I think she's busted in at the start of every show that we've done so far. But I love you. I'm sorry. Your mother will get you that milk. She's got you. But I'm so excited about it, man. Blood and Black Lace will be going over like the history of the influence that Giallo had, which I know there's been a lot of talk of Italian Giallo in here and over on PCP. So nobody's seen Blood and Black Lace out of the crew. Robbie will be here for that one.
Oh,
he hasn't seen it. You guys haven't seen it. It's like the second and most important early Giallo that kind of kicked that off. And then here's the one that I just changed, was Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I took out Bird with the Crystal Plumage because I figured we had enough Giallo with Blood and Black Lace and Deep Red. And Dracula, Prince of Darkness, like you guys will understand when you watch it. There's a lot of qualities that it has that are really reminiscent of like the standard prototypical teen slasher that I'm excited to get into. And then Deep Red, Argento's best Giallo, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, goes without any explanation. And then Black Christmas, which is kind of one of the big inspirations for Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. And one of my favorites on this list. So super excited about it. Super excited. You guys in the chat. Appreciate you. Kenneth Bird, my brother. Appreciate you being here, man. Hope you enjoy this series. Psycho, 1960. This blows my mind, man. This was Hitchcock. I think he was in his early 60s, and this was his 47th film. Crazy. And I think most people that aren't like, well, I'm just realizing I got my fan over here being all loud. Most people that didn't like go to film school and like grow up studying film and whatnot, like Psycho is the most known film that Hitchcock ever did. And I was just think about some director in his 60s right now. Picture Quentin Tarantino. This obviously wouldn't be his 47th film, but if at age 60 he made the movie that 50 years from now, that's what people know him as. Like, that's just a wild thing to go your whole career. And he had hit after hit. Like, don't get me wrong, he was a huge, one of probably the biggest name director at the time. But for this to be his most well-known film is kind of mind-blowing. But it had the other cool thing of interest that I wanted to say before we get rolling is this was filmed by the TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock's Presents. Yeah. He started that, I think, in 55 or 54. So he'd been producing that for a while and hosting that show. And he wanted to make a cheap, low-budget horror film. And this is also his first horror film. Everything else would have never been considered a horror film. It would have been considered suspense. I don't know if the term thriller existed at the time, but if it did, that's what we would have been calling them, is suspense mystery films. And I think when this came out, it was like kind of poo-pooed by the critics. Like, oh, now he's just went down this trashy horror route, which is kind of interesting to me. But it's also, this and Peeping Tom are two of the very first horror films that weren't like in a gothic setting, or that didn't have like giant bugs or something like that, part of like the nuclear scare of the 50s. It was all castles on a hill. And this was the first one of the first ones that's like you're meeting a regular dude in a regular environment that's not so like gothic, I guess. So it really took horror into the modern era. This, and then later on, like I've said a bunch of times, Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary's Baby after it. But excited to get into it, man. Stu, let's start off with you, my brother. What's your kind of history with the film? And then briefly, I say briefly, how was the rewatch for you? Because I'll say this up front too. Some films for me, they require us. They seem set up easily to go through the plot a little bit more. And this is one I really want to zero in on, like a lot of the plot. So we're going to be hitting a lot of things throughout the whole thing. But how was the rewatch, man?
Yeah, briefly, I think it was brilliant on the rewatch. I have seen it before, but of course, brilliant on the rewatch, captivating start to finish. It's a film that just really rewards you, I think, each time over when you rewatch it. It has so many things to give, and there's so many intricate small things you can pick up and really enjoy. So yeah, man, it's just like you said, such a monumental work from Hitchcock at that point in his career, and the things he was able to do and pull off here was super incredible. And yeah, I think it's like it's one of those things that like you don't really realize in the moment, like Edgar Allan Poe, you know what I mean? But like what it's doing for horror and how it's pushing the genre forward, I think in retrospect has been incredible. So yeah, loved it.
Hell yeah, man. What about you, Link? Did you grow up with this one? How was the rewatch?
I saw this one at like I saw this one with my grandma. I was seeing a lot of classics with my grandma. I'm realizing in hindsight. I wouldn't say I grew up with it, but I like by the time I'd seen it, I had known, like I was 13. So I'd known like the twist of Norman being, but I will say because the remake, I haven't seen that in a while as well, but I don't remember hating. I think I saw that one first, actually. I think that's how I knew the twist, because I saw that one when I was like 11. I think it came out like 98. It was like first time it came on cable. I watched it. And after hearing about it, I wanted to see the OG, so I saw it with my grandma. But I will say that I've always liked I forget the actor's name, but Norman Bates. I've always felt like he does a really good job at like, it's even though it's coming, he's like, I like to try to put myself in the mindset of like, this is one of the reasons why it's such a game changer, is because he's so disarming and charming. Right. That imagine if this movie didn't have, like, you're watching this for the first time, you're like, what the fuck? He's dressing as his mom, like this. He seemed like a normal dude. Like what?
I don't you wish that you could see this like and not know it?
Yes,
what I mean? I bet all of us kind of already knew the twist when we saw it for the first time. What up, Christina Payne? Appreciate you being in here. Why do you guys always like to scare me? It's what we do. It's what we do on Blood Splatter Chatter. Link?
But I've always loved his performance. Upon this rewatch, I will say that like there's a lot of aspects of it that are timeless. I like the lighting Hitchcock uses. It is interesting. I mean, I don't think color television was common at this point, but it was. No,
that's the thing. It was like this was a bit of a gimmick when they did it in black and white at the time.
It was a bold choice for him, I'd say.
He did it to fit the horror and then like the kind of like the half gothic aesthetic that it has with the house on the hill and all that. So yeah, he
used Hershey's chocolate syrup for the blood in the shower scene.
Right.
I love it.
I know. I feel like they should have used a little more. They could have used a little bit, but they could have been thicker going down that drain, that chocolate syrup. I think that every time I see it.
But no, this is a classic. I will say upon this rewatch, I found myself way more interested in like a what if film, like because they, I never really paid attention by how much they get you invested into Marion. It's like 45, 50 minutes before, spoiler, she gets off in the shower. But there's like a movie there. There's a story there that I want to see. And
there's another movie. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a different ending to that. Well, that's a perfect segue, man, because that leads us into where I wanted to start, is with the start of the film. I feel like that was always the part that I was kind of less interested in. I feel like when I threw this on for the first time, like a few years ago, when I hadn't seen it in a long time, I want to say never mind. I was going to say we watched this in school, but we didn't. We watched The Birds in school one time when I was really young. But I feel like I was always a little bit less interested in that. And now since going back, and like you guys know, I went on this big Hitchcock kick like a year or so now, and I watched a lot of his previous films that had come out. Now I get more what he's doing. He's setting you up like he's making a regular Alfred Hitchcock movie about this girl on the run that stole this money, and she's got a lover. She goes to this hotel and she meets another man, and he might become the other lover. And that's even how the poster is set up. The poster doesn't show any knife or anything. It shows the woman, shows a shirt. I have the poster behind me over here. Shows a shirtless man, and it's like it's not set up to be this slasher movie that it is at all. But that's what I think is so cool about it. Like it's two different movies, and it makes me think of like From Dusk. There's all those movies that I mentioned earlier that inspire the killer perspective ones, but there's also like Hostel, where they kill the main character halfway through, and then there's like From Dusk Till Dawn, and there's Sinners, even, where it's like the movie changes like almost genres halfway through, which this one does.
It's just it's funny you bring that up. I was talking to a friend recently, and I don't know how. I envy people that can miss trailers and promotion, but they said they went in to see Sinners and thought it was like a gangster movie. And so when a vampire started popping up, they're like, what the fuck? I would have loved that surprise, know, but it was still a great movie though. But that is I think that's very difficult too, because I can't think of any in the spies. I'm bringing it up, but to switch genres or gears like that, almost like Barbarian. Shout out to that movie. It's a more recent example. Mm-hmm. But there's a gift and talent in that to set you up for one movie, because it almost has like Psycho almost has like this, like you said, it's suspenseful. It's almost got like a neo-noirish feel to it, like some gritty shit's going on, but something that is not right in the background, Mm-hmm. And then, not to get too far into it, but it's. You never feel like it's unearned, which I think is a very underrated thing that doesn't really get looked at too much.
Hell yeah. Christina Payne said, who her famous daughter is. I didn't, Lick, I know you just found that out a couple weeks ago when I had mentioned it, but yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, which is crazy to think of.
Oh, yes.
This is like the first like proto slasher, or it's the first slasher, whatever you want to argue. And then Halloween is it's a kind of a perfect, it's just insane that the impact that the two of them had on horror.
Yeah.
But Stu, my brother, how is the first act for you? Where we pretty much we get her stealing the money, we get the cop following her, we have her switching cars.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's intriguing. It's engaging. Like, and for a movie from 1960, it's so. I think one of the best things he does is like, he assumes the audience's intelligence, and just like to speak to like what you guys were saying about like the way this movie switched up. Like I was watching this video clip from I think the Oscars YouTube channel before we got on, and it was like talking about how he required theaters to like not let people in if they weren't there at the beginning of the film. Apparently, like people would just come in the theaters at any old time in the movie or whatever. He was like, no, if you're not there at the beginning and you're not there to get this full story, then I don't want you to see the film. Like, this is how I want to present it to you. And I really love that he did that, because the first act gets you invested in like where you're going. And that's what makes the switch up so brilliant.
Totally.
It's just like totally jarring. And I love the way, like Link said, it's like we go from like that neo-noirish black and white, like real, like the concrete jungle of the city and like everything that's going on, like her fight for independence. She's going to take this money, and I love the back and forth with her and the dude, just the way that conversation goes, and how you can see it kind of building. It's just brilliant. And like the way he frames some of the shots when the money, the envelope of money is just there on like her couch.
I love
when
that.
she's getting ready and she's just looking at it, and it's like kind of like the focal point of the scene. It was just like, that's what I'm saying. Like on the rewatch with Hitchcock, man, there's just so many brilliant little things to pick up. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say John Carpenter, which I could highlight this comment right now. They were in The Fog together, Jamie Lee and Janet Leigh. Great call out, and they were in H2O for a second. I forget, Janet Leigh is in there for just a moment. In The Fog, I don't think they ever see each other in The Fog. I don't think they ever have a scene together. But yeah, he's calling H2O a cinematic abortion. I love that when it came out. That was the first Halloween movie that I saw in the theater. So that one's
it gave us Josh Hartnett, bro. Come on,
exactly.
Now. Like
messy-headed Hartnett. But
bedhead.
Oh, what was I saying? You just made me think of just John Carpenter. He said it. I just loved his quote. Is like, to study Hitchcock is to study the history of film, because I think I said it when we did Rope. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't know much about it, I would just assume like, oh, he can't. If you would have asked me like 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh, Psycho was probably one of his first films. Like, I don't fucking know. But like, he's been making films since the silent film era. And he was big. Like in 1934, he was making big American Hollywood hits. I think Rebecca was his first one. Don't quote me, but I think that was his first American movie. So he'd been at it for quite some time. But what were you saying, Stu?
Well, yeah, just moving from like, that the calculated decisions the calculated but brash decisions he's making in the city, and then I just love the transition out to the hotel and like the voiceovers that she's hearing, and like how it, like the close-ups get we get closer and tighter on her face, and like the way they lit it. It was brilliant, man. Like, just like the sun setting and her imagining how all those conversations were going. I thought it was fantastic. And like the whole time you're engaged, like, and it's just I love that investment you have in, like, the whole time. Like, one of the things I found myself saying to myself time and time again when I was watching this is like, man, their minds must have been fucking blown.
Right. I know. Exactly. Dude.
Like, because it's still, does something for you in 2025, and that's saying something. So it's like, I don't know, man. It was fantastic. I thought it was a fantastic setup, and the way it's paced so tight, and the fucking Bernard Herrmann and those strings just carry. You hear them, first at the beginning, and then you get them again when she's in the car driving out there to the hotel, and things are transitioning. It's just like, man, every time you hear, like, I just love the way it's just divine providence how that came to be on a tight budget. He said, you don't have the full symphony to work with. It kind of reduced him to the string elements. And
you know what I heard Bernard Herrmann said, which that's another thing obviously we got to touch on, is the score. It's maybe the most iconic movie score of all time. One of them. Every kid knows read, whether they've seen the movie or not. I've already taught my 2.5-year-old. She's doing that around the house. But is that Bernard Herrmann thought of it as, oh, this is a black and white movie. I'm going to do a black and white score. No drums, no horns. That was his idea of a like black and white, stripped down score. And it's so goddamn good. And
me being a hip hop fan that I am, I'm just waiting for Bust to Bust to, like, I think about giving some more every time, like, I hear that. That string swell. So.
Travis says, I'm assuming you're also Travis, which is my brother's name. H2O is Dawson's Creek with a slasher. So is every 90s one. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you got in the 90s.
I know what you did last summer. You guys, I wanted to be there for that one, but you covered that recently. And even though there's so many fucking tropes of that era, there's still like there's something very endearing about that film. And it's not even that gory, but I was shocked by how much I enjoyed that rewatch. Like, because I hadn't seen that one in a minute, and I was expecting that rewatch to be like, man, this one's not going to age well. But I had fun with it, like even with some of the tropes that haven't aged well.
Right. It's got its issues. I wanted to say something, Link, before I send it to you, that I never fully understood the situation between Marion Crane and Sam Loomis, her lover. Like, I think I just always assumed I wasn't paying close enough attention to the dialogue. I'm like, oh, he must be married, or she's married or something. Like, why are they having this secret affair in this hotel room? And then looking into it, it's one of those things where I don't understand that era. It's about that he basically, they're in that hotel room because he's broke and they can't be together because he can't provide her with the life that she deserves, and he doesn't have the money to marry her. And in that day and age, she would have looked like a floozy if she's out there just dating this guy without the intent to marry. So that is what it's all about. And that's just, it always went over my head. It really, like, it puts the whole thing in perspective. She has all this societal pressure on her to act a certain way, and it's forcing her, like the constrictions that she's getting from society force her into this act of stealing the money or whatever. It made the whole thing more interesting to be able to, like, actually understand it. But how's the first act for you, Link, before we get to Bates Motel?
That I really enjoyed it on this rewatch. That's probably the more intriguing aspects for me, to be honest. You brought up a good point. Like, I was very cued into her and Marion and her lover's dialogue at the beginning, and she, like, one of the comments he said, he's like, "Why don't you come see me off?" Before she's like, "What do you suppose I do with my afternoon?" Just like, it was like something to the effect, but can't remember verbatim, but it was alluding to, like, what, am I just gonna wait around for you? Like, what the fuck do I look like? And it's like when she's like going to work, like, obviously she's entertained by him, but there's something there, with that comment. And then she goes to work, the whole money thing pops off, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, you guys seem to enjoy each other enough. Like, what's the hang up? Why are you running off without him? Like, why are you not hitting, I just got some money, and it's fucked up. But I also did think to myself, I was like, man, it would have been so easy to just run away with some money back then. No technology to really, you go halfway across to get enough money that someone just hands you to take to the bank, take your ass halfway across the country or halfway across the world. There's really no technology back then that was really gonna, it would have been
same with murder. It's so easy to murder. You know what I mean? It's scary to think about how much, like, people probably did get away with that we just never heard anything about. Exactly.
But I love the first act, to be honest. Like, I like, Stu brought up the whole her being I want to rewatch it now, because I'm almost thinking, like, the lighting was a lot darker before it switched to Norman Bates POV, because she's, like, under stress, pressure, she's feeling guilty and shit like that. Because there was one scene where she bought the car and the cop pulls up, finds her again. I almost think, like, James Cameron, like, pulled some shit from that cop for T2. There's another story.
Wow,
but when she pulls off and shit, and they're just standing there watching her drive off, I was like, this is like some body snatcher shit.
I thought that
like,
exactly.
The cop just comes up out of nowhere, but in hindsight, maybe that was like her paranoia, especially because when they start doing the voiceovers of her thinking of what they were saying about her, you really feel I just love how Hitchcock conveys the stress and the paranoia, the uncertainty Marion is going through at the time. And when we get to the hotel, like you said earlier, Bruno, you think she's found, like, a confidant, a friend, maybe another lover, and shit goes sideways. It just pulls the rug from underneath you. So and then for looking at with this rewatch, I'm trying to rewatch it with that first viewer perspective, where it's like, man, trying to see this for the first time. I could just, a game changer. Like, you're like, what the fuck's going on right now? We've been following this chick for damn near an hour, and we got us invested in a story. Obviously, we're not going to see that play out now.
Right.
Like, so it was like, you would be very engaged or pissed off, but you'd get a visceral something as a first-time viewer back then.
I got a second what Link's saying about, like, is she imagining the cop? Because we, like, never see that again. We never get any type of resolution with that, and it's mad creepy the way, like, that scene when she's in there trying to switch out the car and he's just posted up outside his car, like, that's all sorts of traffic is going by. That's wild.
I love it. I guess Hitchcock had like a big fear of police officers, which, amen to that, brother. I'm fucking with you. Like, this was his opportunity to kind of put that on screen. There was one thing I wanted to ask you guys. Did you guys, I noticed it. I think I've noticed it before. It's got to be in Pulp Fiction. Why can't I think of the guy's name, the black dude's name, the Band-Aid on his back? like the head gangster guy. You know that scene where I think it's Bruce Willis is sitting in his car.
Ving Rhames?
Yeah, and Ving Rhames, what's it? Ving?
Ving.
Yeah.
Ving. Yeah.
Ving
Rhames.
Rhames.
He walks past and like kind of stops and does a double take and looks at Bruce Willis. I feel like that's got to be a nod to Psycho, where she's sitting in the car and her boss walks
And
past
the boss.
and kind of stops and turns around. I was like, oh, that's like taken right out of this. That the other thing, I guess I just wanted to say the cop. Like, there's something about the cop, the actor that they chose for him, the whole performance and everything. It is just like, I don't know. And again, it's perfectly setting you up for the movie that you think you're gonna get, but it also kind of it irritates me. Like, what is her plan? She's gonna switch cars to get away from this cop that's watching you switch cars. Yeah. It's like I don't think she thought this through very well, but evidently
that was crazy easy back in 1962. That was like the way she
yeah, you just do it. It was like Grand Theft Auto, bro. Just hop in another car and shit, drive off. But I was sitting there thinking that too.
Like 700.
But like, where did she think she was gonna go? Like, especially if she was gonna do the old switcheroo. But it's like the cop just saw the model, the look of the car. He was behind. He probably got the plate number.
He got it all. And then like she's leaving. He's like, "All right, let me see them papers, Charlie." It's like,
yeah,
like, right.
He was suspicious. He was even more suspicious now because of that. You know, she's trying to pull off without her bag.
Zimmerman saying, what I love about Psycho is she made a life-changing decision that day, take the money and run. And without even knowing it, it was even her biggest mistake. It wasn't even her biggest mistake of the day. Hell yeah.
So crazy.
Hell yeah. I love the setup. Like I said, man, this was probably the most that I ever really appreciated and enjoyed it. And a lot of it is like what you were saying, like trying to put myself in the mindset of a first-time viewer. And you would be hooked into that story. Like I am hooked into that story. And there is a part of me that's like, I want to see the rest of that movie without.
Yeah, it's so brilliant because you're so invested in her. You kind of like part of you wants her to get free with the money, right? And then like that crosswalk scene, like you said, Vern, is fucking like so high anxiety. It's like when he stops and looks back, he's like, wait a minute. You're like,
right.
Oh, fuck.
Right.
And then like the rain forcing her to pull over at it's just like, it's so wild how it all plays out.
Again, fucking perfect transition, brother. I feel like the movie, and I noticed this time too. It starts out, like I said, that whole bit is your typical thriller, your mystery suspense film, and then the rain kicks in, and it slowly kind of becomes a horror movie.
It does.
At that point. She shows up at the hotel, you got the house on the hill, and all of a sudden you're in a different genre. And I think that's so cool.
I feel like once those voiceovers start happening, like something starts to change.
The music too.
Yeah.
We talked about the music, and we'll talk about it more in just a moment because we're getting to the shower scene in a few minutes. But I love those parts of the music too, especially when she's driving in the car.
The dread and paranoia, bro. So there's, this is one. There's sometimes, when we touch upon our all of our channels, when we get to music for movies, sometimes I'm like, what are we talking about? This movie, though, the music is instrumental in conveying like the vibe or like the feelings going on in the, it's very, because it's not like there's any crazy like exposition or anything like that, or she's we're just reading the reactions on her face. And I think like the music, the backdrop of the music really enhances, obviously it enhances that.
Because this is something I wanted to say on the music that I heard somewhere else. I think I might have heard it on the Evolution of Horror podcast. They had like a music expert kind of talking about this. And what he was saying is this is one of the first scores that like picture the shower scene, which we can talk about, is it's not like, first of all, Alfred Hitchcock was originally going to do it without music. So it was just going to be like this, just the sound of a knife cutting into a body over and over again. And Bernard Herrmann was like, I've got an idea. Just let me do this. And he did it and he showed it to him. Hitchcock loved it. But it's not telling you, I would have never thought of it like this, but it's true. The music's not telling you like how to feel like it typically would. It's not either like showing you like her horror or our horror the way we're experiencing it. It's really just imitating a knife. And I guess what they do is like as it progresses, he adds lower and lower string chords under it. So it's reet, reet, reet. So it's like supposed to like act like a knife going deeper and deeper into the body. And I just think it's the fucking coolest thing in the world. It's just like really, and then it really set the stage for more people to follow that, and like they kind of set the stage for what horror music would become after this. But let's get into it, man. We show up at the hotel. Let's get into we'll talk about Norman Bates a little bit after this, but let's talk about the shower scene. This is pretty much right where it goes. We get the conversation with Norman, which does illuminate a lot of things. He's pretty much, the way I understand it, is he's talking about the trap that he's in because feeling like he needs to take care of his mother. She starts to realize, oh shit, I'm setting my own trap right now. So I need to get out of this. Decides she's going to leave. She goes to take a nice, refreshing shower, which I always thought, two things that are funny. She turns the water on, just straight away, blasts right into her face. Like, that's got to be cold. Like, there's no way that water heats up that quick, but she's so happy about it. And I always thought it was a little bit funny, like how she's smiling a little bit too much, but that's the whole idea. She's like washing herself away from the crime that she's just committed.
Feels like
she's gonna go like return the money, and like there's some weight off her shoulder in the shower, and then enters Norman. But it's still like we don't see a whole hell of a lot. There's what is it? I have it written here. There's 47. Nope, sorry. Different thing. It was a 7-day shoot, 78 different camera setups, and 52 cuts in it. And it was storyboarded by Sal Bass, who did the intro. He's like one of the most important people in old school. I heard you mention him in a video you did recently, Surrounded by Shortbox. He pretty much
crazy intro sequences. Right?
Before him, it was just like words coming up on the screen.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a part of the movie. He's the one that like turned intros into like thematically tying it into the rest of the movie, which every fucking movie that's worth a shit does these days. So he was a really big deal and an innovator. But he drew the storyboards for it at Hitchcock's like direction. He like told him what he wanted to see. He's like, I want to see what this is going to look like. He drew it, and it's probably one of the most talked about and dissected scenes in all of cinema. But how does it hold up for you? Is it still scary, Stu?
Yeah, still scary, still brilliant. I love the way they frame the shower head, like all the way they build tension and anxiety. But I love I love like the and even finding out the things they did after the fact to like block the shower head so they could have the camera like have it like straight on. It's just brilliant. I really appreciate that type of effort because it really paid off for me. Because it really is innovative and it still feels fresh all these years later. But yeah, I love how it's kind of her in the shower and then it kind of pulls out to that wider shot. We see Norman coming through and it's just like brilliant. It's of course the scene, but it really establishes the anonymity of Mrs. Bates, as it were,
right?
And sets up the mystery of the movie that really has you there to the end. So that's like the craziest part because you really think this old woman just came in here and stabbed this chick to death just because she checked in the hotel and she's attractive and the son's feeling some type of way. And like it's kind of a crazy turn of events and considering everything she's trying to get away from. Like it's wild, but yeah, it's crazy how you just go from, like you said, like she's feeling like she's gonna repent for her sins and all that, and then like this judgment comes upon her, and like all the technical ways, like both before, during, and after, especially after with like the shots and
the cleanup,
the way the curtain comes down.
Oh yeah.
Like the body slumps and then like the eye shot, like it was just all so brilliant, man. And I agree with you. We definitely needed more blood going down the drain though. That was weak sauce.
There's a good fun fact that you said
there.
They tried all sorts of shit and they landed on chocolate syrup was the thing that showed up on black
it worked.
And white.
I feel like it worked on the tiles, but like we got to go heavier when we're going down the drain.
I agree. Well, I think this was early on. They didn't know how heavy they should go, right? This was
true.
I can't think of any. I mean, maybe it existed, but I can't think of much blood, if any, in any Hitchcock films before that. Maybe it existed, but it was rare at the time.
I mean, mind you, it was 1960, but so it's like I don't think they could only get away with so much. But I looked at it as like we're kind of seeing her, her life force is leaving her, and as she's like falling down and pulling on the shower curtain, like, and the bloodshot to me symbolized like that's the last of her life force just down the drain. It's just she's completely a dead husk at this point. Yeah, it's probably budgetary. There's only so much they can get away with 1960. 1960, 1961.
I think 1960. I think one of the more like gruesome elements of that is when afterwards, when Norman's cleaning up the bathroom, and that's when you kind of see a lot of the blood inside the tub, and that's really nasty. Like, I don't know, because we're used to seeing so much. There is something like extra gory feeling about the look of it in black and white.
Because even we'll get to it, but there's another kill.
Spoiler alert for Psycho 1960, everybody. Spoiler alert.
The detective gets his kill. They do the whole. It's cool when he's falling down the stairs. I don't know how they pulled it off, that shot. But even when Norman runs up on him, it's very. As soon as he's about to plunge the knife, or he plunges it once, they do a quick cutaway. Like there's no. They don't linger in this Hitchcock film. I'm assuming,
and that's what I love about the shower scene. It's like you don't ever really get any. Maybe like once or twice you get like a kind of a direct shot, but like even though you don't get like that full on gore, it still feels like authentic. I think it was still like really well done.
I feel
like I feel like that's incredible to say, like given how old it is. That is
right. Well, we've talked before about some other movie where people are getting cut while they're wet. I don't know what it was, but anyway, there's just something like extra.
Terrifier,
I don't know. Yeah, it probably was Terrifier too. Like wet skin just seems like it's like, oh, it'd be easier to cut, and just something more painful and like disturbing about wet. And then plus she's naked.
You're vulnerable.
She's in the shower, exactly.
Yeah. Didn't she like have a problem like showering for?
Yes, I have heard that. I have heard that.
Yeah.
She's great. Like in interviews, I don't know if she's probably passed by now. But in interviews, she's just the cutest thing. She seems like, she had a really good experience doing this. And the shower scene was a third of her time on the set.
You said like 7 days, you said?
7 days, yeah. She was there for 3 weeks, and one whole week of it was this.
Doing the shower scene?
Yeah, they used a nude model at times.
They have hot water the whole time for her? Or like, how did that work?
She's like, a lot of people have talked about their poor experiences working with Mr. Hitchcock, which everybody in the special features calls him Mr. Hitchcock. No one says Alfred or Hitchcock. It's Mr. Hitchcock, which I think is cool. But she says he couldn't have been kinder to her. He was very caring and really concerned about her being comfortable in the scene and everything and all that. Said they took a lot of extra time because they had to keep on letting the water. They'd run out of hot water, and then they'd have to let it warm up and shoot.
Are you comfortable, my dear? Well, I hope so. You're going to be doing this for the next week. So
exactly. You kind of said some of your. Did you have more thoughts on the shower scene before we move on?
Oh yeah, I thought it was brilliant because it not only is it works on like a meta aspect. They have two ways. Like it works for the audience, which is a shock to the audience at the time because you're like, what the fuck? Main character is just getting got in the shower. Then it works within the stories because she's at the same time the audience is being shocked. She's being shocked because there is a little lead up, but it's like it's not like they linger where we see there's someone behind her. It's like we see fucking Norman in the doorway, and then shortly after that, she's and it's a shock to both her and the audience. We're like, we're her. She's like, what the fuck? She's dying. Us are like, what? Is the movie over? Like, that's how the movie ends. Like,
and I feel like 1960, the majority of the audience was probably like, damn, this mother and son just killed this girl. Now they're going to get her $40,000. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
They had no fucking idea.
The motivation.
How is the son going to justify this? Because the mom sounds like, but with that veil, we're thinking that Norman's mom is just a bitch at this point, and he's just a son who's trying to do right by his mom.
Like,
well, how's he going to justify this? So, like, where are we going to go? So it still works. Like Stu said earlier, for this film to be 60 plus years and certain aspects to still get you or still come off as captivating or entertaining, there's something to be said about that.
Hell yeah. I think I could see a lot of people in the audience like assuming that she's gonna live until it's out of question that she's dead, until the eyeball scene, and they're like, blink, blink, and then she kind of breathes during the eyeball scene, and they're like,
yeah.
That kind of bugs me a little bit. Like, I guess
it does. It does too.
Hitchcock's
then,
wife,
like,
who was instrumental in all of his shit, when she saw the screening, she's like, you can't send this out. She breathes. And it's like, I guess they just had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does bug me a little bit. What were you saying, Stu?
No, I just love how, like, then it kind of transitions with, you know, ostensibly, or at least you think what's happening is the mother goes back up into the house, and then Norman comes stumbling down. He's like, discovers what she's done, but then, like, your brain's like, wait a minute, when he starts cleaning it up, and you know what I mean? It's just like, you don't know what I just love the way, like, the little misdirect.
Well, it's so good because it's believable too. You could
absolutely
totally buy that. Oh shit, he's not going to send his mother off to jail. He's going to clean up for her. The way he's like, blood, mother, blood. He said, I think he says, like, what have you done? Blood, blood.
Yeah,
I love that too. I love the procedural part of that, where he's just kind of cleaning up the body nice and slowly, and the sinking of the car is so cool. And his performance during that. The car sinking, it stops. He's like eating something or whatever, and he starts looking around. Or maybe he's just chewing on his nails or something.
No, it's candy corn. Apparently, isn't that like the part of the Hitchcock encouraged improv like up to a point, and like part of his improv for the character was eating candy corn as like a little tick type of thing. Like,
Brad Pitt. He's borrowed that in many films,
right? Like his characters are always eating. Yeah.
And then the Pearl. You know, I can't believe I haven't seen this in a few years, but Pearl's, that's obviously an homage to this car scene, you know, where she sinks
with the
Superman.
Oh yeah. I wasn't sure. I'm like, when is Pearl eating candy corn?
No.
I guess that was a big Hitchcock. As far as like Stu, you talking about his improvising. It's interesting how little he seemed to care about the actors. He kind of like would cast people and not tell them much about their motivation and be like, well, I've hired you to do that. You are the actor. Job. And then him, like in an interview that I listened to, it's kind of disrespectful the way he talks about it, really. But he's like, my big thing is knowing that I made a movie where people are reacting from the images on the screen. It's like, I don't care much about great performances or great writing, but it's like putting images together that are getting a reaction out of people. And there's no better genre to do that in than horror or porn, maybe. But horror is where you're going to get that visceral reaction. And this is the peak of it for him. Although I do love The Birds. The Birds was his next and only other like flat out horror movie. Frenzy was one that he did in 1972 that is a dark thriller that we should do one day that you could kind of consider horror. It's got slasher elements to it, but The Birds and Psycho are obviously.
I loved his gift for like really imprinting iconic imagery upon your mind. Like if you, I feel like you watch any great Hitchcock flick, you know, even some of the mid ones, you're gonna get like one, two, three, four scenes or stills from that film are gonna, or you know, show or whatever are gonna stay with you. Like,
and it's shit that almost seems like you might not even notice it because you've seen other people replicate his techniques. So especially in this, like anybody that's ever made a thriller or a slasher movie is doing, whether they know it or not, they're doing Hitchcock. You know, John Carpenter knew he was doing Hitchcock, and then other people think they're doing John Carpenter, but really they're still doing Hitchcock and all that. I'm sure it goes.
I gotta say, I kind of respect his comment. He had to say about he doesn't really care about the actors, because I think what he was saying is like he could see where this. I mean, even back then, there's probably like, oh, this is a big actor. We're gonna put him. You're gonna use them because they're big. We're gonna put them in there because this is what audiences love. He didn't care about that. You know, he's trying to convey a story in his mind, and you know, we see it all the time now. Like there are actors that were hired just for the name, and these projects they sold just based off the name, and a lot of times they're shit. That you know, this is shit you're gonna see and forget about in a weekend. You know, that he maybe had a point. He was like, I want to make shit that's gonna resonate with you. I'm not just gonna. I don't care about the big actor having enough scenes or being the star of the movie, because that's what I have a particular specific story in mind, and I'm going to tell that story. You can get behind there. So it's like I respect that in a sense, because I think he could see like how this is the early days of Tinseltown. He's seeing what the machine is turning into. I think he was trying to like be like a stand against that almost, But there's something to be said about
it's
that.
funny because he would cast like big name people of the time. He just didn't
make a point.
Yeah, he just didn't respect it as much as I think most of us admire. You know what I mean? Oh, this is the guy Anthony Perkins. That's the star of the film. I don't know how big he was, but I think him and Janet Leigh were were pretty big names. Slasher Fred said in the scene where is being questioned by the private eye Arbogast, he gets nervous, almost like being in an interrogation room. You know what I saw pointed out in the special features that I loved? First of all, I love his performance. I love when
I love it. Like
he's nervous. He's stuttering. Do you guys
Oh,
remember the Hitchcock movie Rope that we did, where the killer in that has a
Yeah.
stutter? That's cool. It's like, what did Hitchcock tell him to stutter, or was it just a natural thing that Tony Perkins did?
I thought Perkins so I did a little research on Perkins after the fact and discovering that he was basically he died of AIDS and was he did marry and have kids, but he was also had relationships with men and had to deal with kind of living a secretive life in Hollywood like that.
Anthony Perkins, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know he died of AIDS either. He
died of AIDS at, I think he was only 60 years old. He died of AIDS in the early 90s. Yeah.
He comes back.
I was gonna say, who told me? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say someone told me recently about Oscar Perkins. That's Anthony Perkins' son, and how he's got the parental issues because he was kind of speaking on him and his dad's relationship,
right?
To more or less.
There's the two that we talked. Yeah, Christopher Landon with his famous dad, and then I feel like we talked about those right in a row. I didn't know that about Osgood Perkins. I bet a lot of people don't know that. What was that movie? Long Legs, and then the monkey.
Yeah,
the monkey, Osgood. It was great, but interesting. After this, I don't know. Have you guys seen? And obviously, we could have got to this later. But have you guys seen Psycho 2, 3, or 4? Because he comes back for all of them. Psycho 2 is fucking great. It's great. It's so good. It's written by Tom Holland, who did Child's Play and Fright Night, and he comes back for that one. It's fantastic. It has the woman, which we'll be getting to in a second. It's got Janet Leigh's sister from this one, that she comes back and she's in that one and everything.
Wait,
and then
what?
He comes back for 3, and then he directs 4, and supposedly they're all great. I'm considering doing them soon. Yeah, Psycho 2 is great. Zach or Travis, Zach Zimmerman.
So why isn't that franchise on Front Street like some of these others, man?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Why is that one such a kind of more of a hidden gem?
You know why? I think it's a little bit more sophisticated. It's exactly what we're talking about. Once we get to Halloween, all these other movies we're going to talk about between here and there, most of them have plots, more intricate plots. And at Halloween is where they're like, fuck all that. Let's just do the kills and the teenagers and the titties and all that. And they strip away most things. And that's what we think of when we think of a slasher. And I don't know. That's just my guess. It maybe they were just a little too sophisticated because you got to do more with a movie like this. You have to write a more intricate plot or whatever. They're not necessarily I'm going to go over to my buddy's house when we're 12 and watch Psycho 2.
It is man, it's a perfect have nothing else going on 10 o'clock at night type of movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, Lila Crane, exactly. Lila Crane, who's the woman that shows up supposedly. Let's get her name up here so I know what I'm talking about. Vera Miles is the actress that plays Marion Crane's sister in this one, Lila Crane, and she was under contract with Hitchcock, and she was supposed to do Vertigo. She's supposed to be the lead female in Vertigo, which I think was his film that he did right before this. One of his biggest films, one of the most impactful films that he ever did. And she got pregnant right before filming Vertigo. And evidently Hitchcock was pissed. He was not happy about that. But he brought her back for this. And evidently she was a pretty big name at the time. He thought he needed a big name because you're going to kill your lead character. I need people to be able to connect to her. And let's get into it. Let's get into the third act, because I think this is I still love it. I still really enjoy the third act, but for me, the parts with her and Sam Loomis are kind of the weakest part. It's difficult to do. All of a sudden, you're going to bring in these characters that we don't know from shit, and we got to connect to them, and there's not that much time, and there's really not much written for them outside of knowing that they've lost someone or that they're looking for someone. We can get behind what they're going after, but there's not much to like teach you about these characters. But I still enjoy that stuff, but to me, it is the weakest part. There's a lot of interesting stuff with Norman there. Abergast, I think he's the best part of that third act. Like I like him going in there and interrogating Norman Bates. But how's the third act before the end, before like the final reveal? How's all that do for you, Stu, or whatever you're about to say?
I'm right there with you with Abergast. Like I love the interrogation. I love him breaking down Norman, like really sniffing it out. Like you know what I mean? Like he figures out in no time like something ain't right here. As Link was saying, the Abergast kill scene is my favorite kill scene.
Hell yeah.
As great as the shower scene is, the way that's shot, him coming up the stairs, we get the door crack, and the way and Hitchcock uses this angle, that overhead at the bend of the stairs angle more than once. He uses it when Norman's carrying down his mother early on, and like it's the back and forth, and we're like, damn, she's talking to him. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you know what I mean? It's just such a brilliant angle because, you know, he's coming up the stairs, the door crack, you know, and then out comes the mom with the knife again. And dude, that one's more violent to me because it's boom, and it's like it reminds me of like Spike Lee with the, you know, an X with like the, what is it, like that camera, like it just looks like he's like walking like there's a name for it, the steady camera, something like that, where he's like on a conveyor belt literally, and like
and the scenes are just it's like a cool
like Spike's famous for that look, but it felt like the same thing when he's falling down the steps, even though like it's a crazy long staircase and part of it feels like a little bit disjointed. Like I just love, and then like him like landing, and then like it was just brilliant. That's my favorite kill of the movie.
I'm still a little confused about how it was shot, but I know it's a composite thing. He did a film, I think it's called Saboteur. I think it's Saboteur, where someone's at the top of the what kind of thing? The Statue of Liberty, and they fall off. And it's like, it's really funny, but it's like a composite where it's really just someone like suspended and they're doing that. And then they're moving the background behind them. And that's what they're doing here. Like the camera, I think, is strapped to them. And then they've got like they film like the camera going down the stairs, and then they put the two shots together. So that's why it looks so funny, but it's so cool. There's something so stylistic about it and so different and stand out. I've used it in a bunch of the intros that I've made for this channel,
and just like the fact that he gets stabbed in the face or what, like you don't even know, like, but just it looks gnarly as hell. Like it's more
no time for him to recover.
Like that little bit of blood right there is more effective, I think, than anything we get in, like blood wise, anything we get in the shower scene.
Right. Well, I think this, if it wasn't for this kill, it would be harder for me to want to label this as the first slasher. The fact that we get the second kill now, it's setting up exactly like a modern slasher. Okay, you killed the first person that came to the hotel, send another one. Okay, you've killed the second person in this secluded area, you know, very slasher tropey. I wish they would have killed the guy, Sam Loomis, which, by the way, is obviously that's where Dr. Loomis from Halloween was named after, is Sam Loomis from this one. There's so many connections between Psycho and Halloween.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Definitely wish he would have got it, though. I agree.
Right? Yeah, you could have had one more kill, but it's getting a little long, honestly. The movie is a little like they had to have them trim off certain bits. I guess there was a scene that was written that they cut out of Marion's sister Lila and Sam Loomis like connecting more and bonding over the loss of.
And it's just like it's wild when we're like, I don't mean to jump too far ahead, but we're in the final scene with the interrogation room before like the guy does his whole explanation thing about Norman's psyche. Like Loomis is there just like, oh shucks, like, and nobody's like, hey motherfucker, like how long did you let this shit go on? Like, like how many people were we about to dredge up out of the swamp, bro? Like somebody should have been on his ass. He should have been in another room with his badge stripped. Like that shit was wild that he was in there just like nothing happened.
Let me see. I feel like I missed a couple of these. In Psycho 2, Lee Crane, because I already said that one. The movie deals with guilt When Marion takes her fatal shower, she is washing away all of her guilt, embezzling the 41,000. I believe it's 40,000, 41,000 bucks, and similar when Norman is washing the blood. Fun fact that I just thought of: that scene where she writes down basically the first fun fact is this is the first time in cinema history that we ever saw a toilet flush on screen. For whatever reason, Stefano is the guy that came in and wrote the screenplay with Hitchcock, and a lot of the elements, like starting out with the stealing of the money and changing Norman Bates' character, he came up with that. For whatever reason, he wanted to get a toilet on screen. It was very important to him. He's like, I think it'll really unsettle people to see a toilet on screen. It's like, it'll blow their fucking minds. So he wrote that scene where she does a little arithmetic on the piece of paper so that he could get her to flush it down the toilet. And that would be the way to like get it on screen. But I guess that's what I was going to say. I feel like there was something else.
That was like one of the most unbelievable parts of the movie. That when the sister and homeboy came through, and she's like, "Look, it's a little scrap of piece of paper that she wrote 40,000. It's like, you know, with your crime solving ass."
Zimmerman says the reveal was mind-boggling to me. Wait, there's no mother. Wait, Norman is. Wait. Does he have a penis? I assume that's where you were going with that. He does. I think I'm pretty sure he does. Slasher Fred says the original Friday the 13th is basically Psycho, but done in the opposite, where it's focused on the female villain believing she is channeling her late son. Dude, I was thinking a lot about Friday the 13th. It's so crazy. Like Friday the 13th is a whodunit. Like we think of that as the prototypical teen slasher, no plot. It's just that they didn't do a good job, in my opinion, at making a whodunit. You don't even, especially from our perspective now, when we know the story, it does not feel like a whodunit in the least bit. There's no red herrings. Yeah. There's no you looking around like, oh, maybe it's them, maybe it's them. You just find out at the end it's this person that we never would have thought it could be in the first place. But Lick, my brother, how's the third act work for you? The whole changing of perspectives and the whole shebang bang.
It works. I will say that now that you said that they had to trim some of it down, I do feel that. Like I was real critical on this rewatch, I'm noticing, but I feel like they kind of, I don't want to say they rushed to the ending, but everything happens live. It's very quick paced as opposed to the juxtaposition of the rest of the pace of the movie. I do feel like the film would have benefited from, because it's like we almost forget about her lover, and you know, I don't even think they mentioned her sister unless that was a chick at the beginning.
They say that I noticed this time they say something about her. They do at least just mention her in passing before that,
But because they're so minimal in presence after, well, you know, we don't see the sister until after all this shit happens, and it's like the lover we see at the very, very beginning, opening minutes of the film. You almost forget about him. So it's like when they come along, they don't really have. I don't have it mapped out in my head as to how they could have, like, what character could have replaced. Maybe they could have extended the detectives scenes a little bit longer. Like, I don't know how. I really don't know. But I think
they could have went with him. Or something like, hey, we're gonna check into this hotel room. You go over there, so you just get more time with
contact us
into that moment.
Yes, I think that would have made it a lot tighter. But it does feel like, you know, it's not taking away much of this film, but I do feel a slight rush at the end of the film where it's like we could have spent more time. Like, you know, the reveal of shit doesn't really hit as hard. They kind of the ending is a little anticlimactic. But little bit. This is me nitpicking. You know, these are just refined things they could have refined.
That's what we're here for, baby. That's what we're here for. You know what I mean?
But it's just interesting to me, just because I think this rewatch is the first time where I was ever more entertained by the beginning of the film, as opposed to the second half.
That's weird. I was the exact same way, man. I was almost most into the first act. Even more so than I was into when they get to Bates Motel. And I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. All the bits that we have with Norman and their conversation, like, it's all really good. It's most of that is his performance. Be damned what Hitchcock says. Let it be known, Hitchcock. It really was. And without Anthony Perkins, this movie isn't quite what it is.
Absolutely.
But I'm right there with you. I think the way it kind of just leads up. It is. You're right. Like it's also like, bam. Now we're about to go down to the basement and wrap this up. And then get fucking 12 minutes of a psychiatric exposition at the end. One thing I really noticed this time is as Lila Crane is going to the Bates house and she's walking up there, it really reminded me of the scene in Halloween where I don't know how familiar. I don't know. You guys, I'm sure you guys have obviously both seen Halloween, but how burned into your brain it is. But there's a moment where Jamie Lee is walking over to the house across the street from where she's been babysitting, and she's concerned that something's going on over there. She's like walking over suspiciously, and it keeps changing from her point of view to the camera facing her, to facing that way, to facing her. And it does the same in this, where it like creeps up on the door, and and like whatever is in that door. And to me, it's like, oh, we're setting up a slasher kill. She's about to get murdered. You know what I mean? That's what a typical slasher would have done. But no, she's about to find the body in the basement. And this is what I always forget, especially when I watched it for the first time in a long time, a few years ago, when the body turns around, just how badass Mother looks. Like they did a fantastic job with the practical effects. My daughter saw it today. I was watching just like the making of. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And that turned around, and she's 3, and she's like, what in the fuck? And she turned around and crawled up on me. I was like, oh, you weren't supposed to see that. But it's scary, and they did a fantastic job with it. And then the way that Norman comes in, and just like the crazy look on him. There's two things. There's the crazy look on his face with the knife, and it's like, oh, wow. And then
what that reminded me of? The Burning. The end of The Burning. Where that chick with the is that the one I'm thinking of where we got the dudes wearing the chick mask and he's standing there?
Oh no. You know what? I don't want to say what it is because I don't think my homie over here I know what you're talking about. The audience knows what you're talking about. It's a summer camp slasher from 1983. Yes. I don't think you've seen that, Stu, and I want to blow your fucking mind one day and watch that. So I don't I know what you mean. The other bit of that I think is cool, and I saw this in the special features, is how well it's done, where it's all in one motion. Like Sam Loomis comes up behind him and grabs him, and they really choreographed it where his wig's gonna fall off and his dress is gonna come apart and he's struggling, and it looks natural. Where all of a sudden because when he comes in, you can't even tell that that's Norman. Really, you can't tell that that's Anthony Perkins, and then and a minute later, you can totally tell it. It like describes it all really, really well.
Yo, I did want to highlight I like the interior. I wish this is maybe I think why they maybe should have like drawn out the detective scene a little bit more is because there was that nice little tension filled cat and mouse where they're like they both know each other's not on the up and up. Like more than you're telling me, and he's like more than you're vice versa. Mm-hmm. And there's like a cool camera angle they use. So like it's like you're looking at Bates' chin, and he like leans in to like but it's like when he comes back, it's like you see his whole face when he leans in, but when he pulls back, it's like looking at his chin again. I just thought that shot was really cool, but I don't know. I think that because the detective he was the one to end with the scenes where it's like, he's like, why don't you, if you don't believe me, follow me to some rooms. He's like, oh, of course, you do that for me, thank you. Right. And it's like Norman, he catches Norman like, nah, check this room later. And then he's like glancing at the house. Like, I think they could have drawn that out just a little bit longer. Especially because we don't, and I get he was there on the behalf of like the lover and the sister. But at that point, he's our connection to the chick at this point. So it's Marion. So I just feel like if they would have drawn that on a little bit longer, maybe had some scenes, that just really bothers me because I do feel like maybe I'm being too much of a horror or film snob, but I've never noticed that before. I was like, man, they've kind of rushed into this, and this, I can't do any better than Hitchcock, but I did notice it.
You just made me think of just something that I don't even know if it's worth pointing out, but when Norman Bates, going back a while now, when Norman Bates is sitting there in his office or whatever it is, eating with Marion, she's eating her sandwich. He's not hungry, but he starts to get like weird with her and kind of like dark with the way he's talking and all that. And they lit it so he's 50-50. Yeah, this is the dark side of his face, and this is the light side. And the dark side is the side facing the camera, which is odd. That's not like a normal thing. Normally it would be the light side. I just thought that was really cool. I'm like, if someone else, you might not think that was done on purpose, but I feel like that was very intentional. Like, I'm showing you my dark half right now, which fits in so perfectly with it. But Stu, my brother, what do you think of the ending reveal, the finding the mother, and the explanation, the exposition that we get at the end? Because that's a lot of people go back and forth on this. I think they could have got away with it, but it just goes. It's like poorly written and awkward the way it goes on, and poorly acted. I don't like that psychiatrist almost at all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, like the cellar scene it's masterful, man. It's still terrifying, I think, to this day. When not only like you said, the reveal. I heard like Hitchcock hid different corpses in Janet Leigh's wardrobe or something like that throughout filming. And she
to clarify, different versions of
she suspected it was like to see which one scared her the most or whatever. Yeah, dude, I thought it was incredible the way the swinging light bulb, the way they lit it, like where the shadows played across it was just that's why Hitchcock is Hitchcock,
right?
And then Norman showing up it's just terrifying, man. It's just so crazy, and it's just like it made me cackle watching it because, like, again, like there's so many times watching this where I just knew it blew their feeble minds in 1960. Like, what in the fuck is going on right now? Like you said, it's always been like giant invaders from outer space or worm people or some shit like that, or
Dracula, or Frankenstein.
Just having that change, and then like just like seeing everything go down was crazy. So I thought it was so great. They should have just ended it there. You know what I mean? I think it's better.
Way better.
I think it was such an ambitious project. I think on so many fronts for Hitchcock, and I think he said what he needed to say at that time. I think it's over exposition, and it's just kind of like dull. And I agree. I think the guy did an okay job kind of delivering it, but it's just like that felt like you're kind of like feeding bread to the ducks, man. Like,
Hitchcock,
you're really helping the normies out. Like, really, like, what did I just watch? Like,
everybody was a normie at the time.
Transvestite. He's thought he had his fucking look. It's like,
well, you must understand.
Christ, like, do you really need it all fucking peanut butter and jelly for you? Like, some things are better left unsaid or unexplained. Like, I think that's the beauty of horror and the beauty of like the American psyche, like the disturbed American psyche. So
the movie would definitely end like that nowadays. I think the idea is at the time nobody had experienced anything like that. Psychoanalysis wasn't as it was pretty big. Like people, it was a really well-known thing actually at the time, but not so much now. People didn't grow up their whole lives with just it being like understood almost, like things like that. But I guess Hitchcock, it was Stefano's idea, the writer. He's like, people are going to need this. And Hitchcock called it that's a coat grabber scene. People will be grabbing their coats on the way out the door. And Stefano's like, nobody's going to fucking leave this movie, Hitchcock. Nobody's leaving, which he's probably right.
Well, that said, I got to say, the way when we go back to, like you got down here in this bottom right screen, like Norman alone in that interrogation room, getting the blanket, and like just the shot going down the hall, the cop giving it to him, and then the voices, and like, dude, to me, that's where he really brings the performance home, is like the way he forms that smile. Like, how many villains has that shot informed? How many moments in Heath Ledger history?
That's Heath Ledger.
Totally. Heath Ledger's Joker come about if we don't have that shot? Like, I feel like it's so instrumental.
I should have said this at the beginning, so thank you, Slasher Fed. I never did mention this, and I must mention it during the show. Norman Bates, inspired by serial killer Ed Gein from Wisconsin, who inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, and possibly Buffalo Bill to a degree. Well, to a degree, no, definitely more than to a degree. But yeah, he was basically a dude that was going around like killing his neighbors in rural Wisconsin. And like it took quite a while before people realized, like, oh my God, all this fucking guy's neighbors are dead. And then at his house was very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, making shit out of bones and lampshades out of skin and just a lot of weird stuff where he was wearing in their skin. Kind of a good mixture of Leatherface and Norman Bates. The other thing, just a random ass thing to point out, I've got a friend. Her name is Brittany. She's got a dog, and she named that dog Norman Bites. I fucking love that. I love her for that. It's so fucking great. Norman Bites. But
I love it.
Link, what do you think of the end, the reveal, the mom, the way it's shot, and the exposition? Should we have done without the exposition scene to you?
The reveal, like I said a little bit earlier, kind of spoiled it. I still stand by. I think it was a little anticlimactic. I don't know. I got to find a better word for it because I can't really think of what I would do to replace that, the filler time. But I do think the exposition scene, I will give like the benefit of a doubt because the time it was filmed in, and
Right.
there's certain things I'm sure we'll see now that won't necessarily. Oh, sorry, guys.
There you go. Sound like a motherfucking biker gang coming over there to pick Link up. But all right, I get what you were saying. Like I'm right there with you, man. I am right there with you.
I'm back.
Oh, go ahead.
But I think it was necessary at the time, like the writer said. I don't think it's necessarily aged well, but at the time, I think it's more or less that people will take notice of it nowadays, like the whole exposition scene, whereas like in the past it probably aged well. It's like it was such a nuanced subject at the time, you kind of needed that exposition for people who are really like, what the fuck did I just watch? You know, it hasn't really aged well, but I'm willing to, it's easy to overlook given the era it was from.
They really like kind of explain it in a way where it's almost like you could almost get away with not being canceled today doing it. Well, you got to understand, he's not a whatever. Like they try to like make it like where like a trans person today wouldn't be overly upset about it. Cause like, no, it's not that, it's this. But regardless, my point was going to be, it set a precedent for a lot of problematic shit and later on in horror. The movie you were talking about a little bit ago, that camp slasher that you were talking about, Link, Dress to Kill, Buffalo Bill. There's a lot of cross-dressing serial killers that you have to think maybe wouldn't have existed in horror if it wasn't for this, which, you know, is obviously not a cool thing for a lot of people, I'm sure. So there is that, but I'm not trying to cancel Hitchcock.
No, I think, you know, it's interesting because I think, you know, Hitchcock kind of set a precedent. He's almost like the first elevated horror where it's like people who's like, we can make a hit, like a horror sells, but like I think he's set something up where it's like people are like, yeah, we just got to do this, and it's like they just weren't as nuanced or as like intelligent as Hitchcock is, or they didn't understand the craft making of storytelling as well as he does. So, but you know, I think, like I said, it doesn't age. It's given that in hindsight, you know, it's easy to see how I think this scene was necessary, but now in today's age, of course, it's a little redundant. But it also, you know, like you said, it set a precedent where there's like cross-dressing serial killers, but they couldn't handle the nuance as well as Hitchcock could. You know, it's kind of just more of a it's part of the story in Hitchcock's Psycho, but it's more sometimes it's shock value in other horror movies.
Right.
You know?
Well, sometimes it's like the motivation, because I don't know if it's the motivation, but it's like it's part of it. It's tied to the reason why they're a killer is because they're like this. And it's like, you know, it shows you, it's a glimpse into what society thought, like, which isn't like it's almost understandable. It's such a departure from the norm that anything that's that big of a departure from the norm that people aren't used to, they're going to be scared of it. They're going to think crazy shit about it. So it's understandable, but it hasn't aged.
Especially like you're saying with like them being in the hotel at the beginning just because he like doesn't have his shit figured out. You know what I mean? Like if that's where we're at, like you got to hide that. Like Jesus,
right? Exactly.
Like that's throwing on women's clothes is like no wonder he turned into a fucking homicidal psychopath.
I would love sometimes when I see like some of the movies that they're like iconic because of the game changers there now. It's something like Strange Darling that I would love to see someone's reaction to in like 1960. Like they're like, what the fuck am I watching? Like this is so satanic right now, you know? Like that would probably be their.
Just think about it. Think of a double feature in 1960. You go to see Psycho and then Terrifier 2. It's like, whoa, they really leveled up at that second one. What the fuck? Exactly.
They're devil worshippers.
It had to be, dude. Can you imagine being Anthony Perkins like as a closeted gay man, like doing the press for this movie and just going through it? That had to be such a crazy.
That's a great point. The writer Stefano, he says that he doesn't think Anthony Perkins ever shed Norman Bates after this.
No,
like he sunk so much into the character that it always kind of stuck with him to a degree.
It came so naturally, and like it's just kind of really disarming and unnerving how naturally it kind of comes to him in this performance. It's crazy.
One just is just a random thing that I wrote in my notes. It's cool. I bet the show answers it. But what happened to Norman's dad? I love that they kind of tease that the whole time. They just kind of tell you, like, oh, like he's about to tell her what happened. Like, oh, but you're eating, so I shouldn't say it now. It's just kind of alluded to. But it's did anybody finish the show? I watched the first season. I really enjoyed it, but it's one of those I never like finished. It was really good though. I know it's beloved. Like people love that show.
The bad thing about good shows is if like especially if I find them kind of like after they're come out, like I'll go back, and I always end up putting it off. Like I'm like, oh, there's no more new seasons to watch. I'll watch this, in its entirety, and I always end up putting them off. Like I haven't even seen all of the first season. I've seen a couple of episodes from the first season.
Probably the same.
Love Vera Farmiga. That I think she's playing.
My God,
that's playing them out. Yeah. And the dude who plays Norman seems like he was a pretty good fit as well. Better than I'm thinking of fucking Hannibal. But I remember thinking like, that's a pretty good casting for a younger version of a pre-established. Because I remember they did like a Hannibal, like a what do you call it, prequel in like 2007 maybe. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking like, why would you do that? Nothing about this screamed like this is a good idea. From the casting to the story idea, it was just bad. But the show I remember thinking it was like, I gotta invest more into this. But that being said, I think I'm going to now.
I know, dude. I know. I want to. Yeah. I keep telling myself I'm gonna, but we'll fucking see. A lot on my plate. We've kicked off the road to Halloween. We got a horror fest and spooky season just around the corner. We got the Dairy TV show coming out in October. So much. This is so much.
Oh fuck yeah!
Let's go ahead and rate this bad boy. I have themes written down in our. There's some themes if you guys want to break down. That's optional for you. If you'd like to say what the movie's speaking to you or break down any of the themes along with your rating, Big Stupak Shakur, what you got for us?
Yeah, man. I think like overall theme wise, I think this like Hitchcock, was trying to tell this country like we had a problem. We had a lot of issues that we were dealing at or looking at, or putting the mirror in front of us. In a way that was, I think, unique and really kind of shook us to the core. So I think there's so many things to be said in here. I think about sexual abuse, sexual proclivities, repressed sexuality, the way society, views you versus the societal expectations, and the way you're viewed versus, who you are and who you really want to be. I think you can go on and on with it, but I think ultimately the ambition of the project was that he had something he wanted to say. He wanted, people to talk about it. He wanted people to have conversations. And I think, that's a goal that's still being accomplished with this movie and its effect on cinema and American culture. So easy 5 out of 5, man. Flawless.
Hell yeah.
It is why the genre exists, and I think in so many ways, shape, and form. So Got to give it up for the master.
Hey, and I love that. I love the gap that there is. Like there's, like I said, PB Tom came out right before this, wasn't as big of a hit, way less seen of a movie. And like the next slasher that's similar to me is like Sisters, which we did, De Palma's Sisters in 1972. So like it's one of the, it's just like I said the same thing when we talked about Night of the Living Dead. It's the first zombie movie that we know, like modern zombie, but nobody picked it up and ran with it. Everyone's like, that's fucking cool. All right, let's make a story about Dracula again. Like nobody didn't know how to like pick it up and like do this until much further down the road in the 70s, which we'll be getting to in this series. But I always love that.
Why do you think that is? Like what?
I don't know. They just didn't realize like, oh, this can be replicated. I don't think it was as big of a thing. Like, oh, they just did that. Let's make 12 of them. But maybe I'm wrong because there was a million gothic horror movies and a million big giant bug movies. But I don't know. Maybe like people couldn't get away with it with the ratings board without being Hitchcock, or like studios didn't trust a director to go in there and like, yeah, I'm gonna make a Psycho. It's like, oh, maybe you better not. I don't trust you to do that.
Because it seems like once Halloween got popping, it seemed like, all right, we're gonna cookie cutter that,
right? Because it's cookie cutter. But think about how much easier it is to emulate Halloween with a Friday the 13th thing than it is to emulate this. You got to be able to make a complex story.
And interesting, because there is a 20-year gap between Halloween, a 20-year gap between Psycho and Halloween, where, like you said, people weren't capitalizing on this idea. It took them a while for them to really like, this is what works, or like this is what people want to see. It's in hindsight, it is 20 years sounds like a long time for Psycho to be such a hit that you guys are just they took them 20 years to figure out like a blueprint or something to pick up off that film to turn into like a commercial aspect or something.
It's kind of crazy. There's just like a huge gap before you even get anything that's kind of like similar to it that I know of. All right. That's at least popular enough that I've come across it. But hell yeah, man. Where are you on it? Rating, and if you want to add anything. Stu, I think you summed it up fucking beautifully with the theme. So if you have anything to add to that, like, feel free.
I mean, no, yeah, like Stu said, there's so much to pull from. There's so many themes. One that stood out for me is I guess, I feel like Hitchcock was a big proponent of like living against societal norms. And I feel like he's like in this film is talking about being true to yourself. Like, that, Marion wasn't happy with her life. She knew that she was going to be looked down upon given her situation with her lover and everything. So she's trying to escape she was ashamed. She couldn't find the kind like, this is my life. I'm going to live it how I live it. It's hard for people to break against societal norms, even any sexual identity repression, I guess, with Norman. He was I'm very, I don't think they touch on it, but given that Anthony Perkins was a gay man, I'm almost inclined to like maybe there was a Norman Bates might have been gay. There's a hint of him struggling. Like maybe that's why he's got something so against his mom and women, is because his mom expected him to find the pretty girl, or like, I think there's, something there about sexual identity and repressing that, but there's something about, living up to like the norm society or people expect you to abide by, instead of being true to your own self, doing what you want to do, or people often find themselves like, I'm going to do this because I think other people respond to this. Like at the end of the day, you're doing it because you're gauging off other people's response, not something maybe you necessarily want to do or it's true to you, but you think he's speaking on like the struggles that people. It creates a lot of like, when people can't be themselves, it creates trauma and deeper problems.
A lot of those movies that we were referencing earlier, that is kind of what it comes down to in those movies. More specifically, it's the repression of your true nature that causes the rage.
Yes,
which is problematic in its own. It's always problematic when you're like, well, if you got a gay person and this happens, they could kill us all. You know what I mean? So that's what a lot of people did in a lot of these movies. It's problematic as fuck, but that's the idea. Is exactly what you're saying. The repression part causes the issues that we get in the movies.
I think, to not put inside, to try to spin it in a better light, because I think that Hollywood misses that note, but I think it could be applied to anybody that when people are repressed enough, there's going to be some sort of explosion. It doesn't always have to be a violent explosion, but for entertainment purposes, Hollywood is into that. But there's something when you try to fucking close someone in, or they can't be themselves, there's going to be some sort of fucking explosion or visceral reaction.
Exactly. And I think it's like emblematic of where America was at the time, right? The start of the 60s. You're coming out of like the post-World War II culture, like things are about to get real different, especially like towards the the second half of the decade.
That's a great point. Like the 60s is people coming out of repression, and like the explosion of it, maybe going a little too far into that. But what's your rating, Luke?
What I was gonna try. I've been a critic on this movie. I was gonna try to like. It was no less than like the edgy critic was gonna like maybe a 4, but no, this is even with its small problems, bro. This is a 5. I'll give it a 5. Given the precedent set and the iconicism of it, and just based on the conversation, how much this conversation's made me realize how many fucking films, not even horror films, have fucking pulled from this in some shape or form. Yeah, and this is a 60+ year. Like, I watching this in the hindsight of like, man, imagine this would have been the first time seeing this. Like, this film is like a year older than my mom. I view my mom as an old lady, but I view her as I've always viewed her as an old lady being my mom, but she's born in 61. It's like, she's old. This movie's older than her, and it still resonates. There's still something to it. Not all movies age well. I think this movie is aged quite well, visually quite well, especially. And there's something to be said about that, so I can't, given that, I have to give it a 5, there's minute problems I would have done today. Once again, I might have changed some things in Hitchcock's script or story to refine it, but once again, I don't know if I could. I know I can't make anything better than what Hitchcock has done, so maybe that was the point. Maybe it's supposed to be the way it is. Nonetheless, it's iconic, and it's just a great all-around film,
Hell yeah.
5.
I was the same way, because I was sitting there like, I knew I was going to give it a 5, but I'm like, there are issues. Like I said, the third act. So I heard someone say, like, I think it was Hostel. It's like, oh, we did Psycho better than Psycho did. It might not have been Hostel, but I could see that as far as killing your main character and then getting us to attach to the replacement of that main character. There are movies that have done that better. Yeah. But still, there's so many things that this one does so far and above so many films, especially films of its time, that I will be right there with you guys and give it a 5. As far as the themes, man, the only thing else I would add to it is just like the importance of the mother, like the significance of the mother, and just like, if that relationship goes astray, that really is, that can cause that's make or break you. You know what I mean? It's fucking
and like there's some of this stuff is like wishy-washy, like as far as like the psychology is concerned. Some of it's true, some of it's not. But I feel like so many serial killers have horrible abusive mothers, or came from like situations like that. Like, so that one still rings true to this day. It's crazy how much he got right, in that sense. Yeah.
Agreed, my brother. So a 5 across the board, and we have done it, man. We have kicked off the road to Halloween, man. We are paving the path right now, my brothers. So again, next week, man, this is a really underseen film. It's one of the trivia questions that Ghostface gives to Drew Barrymore. I think that's what it is in the opening scene. It's the answer to one of the questions that she gets. It was like talking about like, what's the first slasher or something, and he says, no, it's Peeping Tom, 1960. So this is a movie that came out a little bit before Psycho, and there's a lot of similar thematic themes where you are made to feel sympathetic for the killer in the movie. But for whatever reason, and again, we'll watch the movie and we'll judge it for ourselves, it ruined, I'm forgetting his name. I think his last name was Powell, the director. He was a prominent director too at the time. And for whatever reason, it was so effective to like critics that it ruined this guy's fucking career. Like after this, people were like, and me saying that, you might go into it thinking you're going to see some crazy shit. I've only seen it once. I don't remember it that well, but I remember being like, damn, this ruined his career. Like, why? So we'll have to look into that and like watch it knowing that in mind. Like, this made Hitchcock an even bigger name than he was, and it ruined, but Peeping Tom ruined this director's career. It's just like maybe too effective in how
it's so crazy too. Like growing up thinking about, man, like watch out, that guy's a psycho. Psycho is like a cool, scary term. Be like, man, that guy's a fucking Peeping Tom.
Right. Like, that's funny. It just dawned on me like last night, like, oh, like the movie Maniac from 1980, another killer perspective one that's super disturbing. Just like the similar, like obviously, maybe you guys thought of this at the time when we reviewed it, but Psycho, Maniac. It's like, duh. Like, why did I not put the connection together there? I guess it's staring me right in the face.
Maniac was so awesome.
Hell yeah. And it wouldn't have existed without this one and maybe Peeping Tom. So really excited to rewatch that and to show you guys this. I think it's on Tubi, Peeping Tom is. So make sure you guys are checking it out. Bam. There it is right there. I made this thumb a long time ago. We were planning on doing it, but I'm glad I saved it so we have it for this series. And then I'll be over, I think, Tuesday night over on the Brother Fables channel, one collection down, for Action Fest, doing the Quentin Tarantino written 90s crime thriller. I think it was the 90s. True Romance, which I have not seen this movie since I was in high school. I remember this was one of those movies that like I got into Tarantino, watched a few of his flicks, and I'm like, oh, he wrote a movie before he did Reservoir Dogs.
He did.
went back. I remember watching True Romance and being like, first of all, like Tarantino's stamp is all over it. You can just instantly tell, like, oh, this is a Tarantino movie, just without him directing it. So
I remember
I'm excited to go do a rewatch on this one.
I haven't seen that one in a minute, but I do. What stands out to me, I remember the Dennis Hopper being badass in that, and then the Brad Pitt being a pothead. I mean, he is a pothead in real life, but I just remember him being like one of those surfer burnout dude.
Gary Oldman. Come on.
Oh shit! Yes,
Gary Oldman,
fucking the Chinese food scene, bro. Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember. Honestly, all three of those actors, I did not remember that they were. I cannot
wait till you come on that Gary Oldman scene, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah. Are you on that, Stu?
Nah,
okay.
I did Chronicles of Riddick this week. That was my action best.
Nice, man. All right, so True Romance over on One Collection down on Tuesday night. But Big Stupac, what you got going on?
Jumped on the Superman hype wave. Dropped a video for Superman number 400. Crazy collection of creators on this one. Just a cool deep cut single issue over on Dr. Doom's fan club on YouTube. Yeah, and then Ink and
one issue.
Yeah, dude. All these guys on one issue. Mobius, Ditko, Steranko. Some of them did interiors. A lot of them did pinups. But like, it's incredible, man. It's an incredible list of creators. Yeah. It was
year? Like 80s.
So 84. Julie, like Superman editor Julius Schwartz was basically on his way out the door. Kind of had heard the naysayers saying his best days were behind him, and he got on the horn with the talent creator at DC and got like all these names on the.
That's
on
awesome.
Steve Ditko dresses Superman. Like it's crazy.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, definitely dope issue. And then Ink and Insights every Wednesday night, man, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Doom fan club. So
that's what I'm
thanks for having me, dude. This was such a brilliant one to revisit. So
hell yeah, man. I appreciate both you fellas being here. And then Brother Link, Missing Link Comics on Instagram. You got anything else going on this week, bro?
I know. I don't think I know. Robbie's got. I know. I'm doing Terminator next for Robbie. I don't think that's next week.
That's a couple. I was gonna do that one, man. I was signed up for it, but we're going on vacation. I love doing those franchise ones, and I need you to really talk up Salvation for me, man, because I'm not.
I got you covered.
All right, I appreciate.
But beyond that, I know I just had my birthday Tuesday.
Oh my god! I meant to start the show with wish you a happy birthday. That's I said at the beginning. I always forget like 4 or 5 things I plan on saying. That was how the fucking live. So happy belated, brother. Happy belated.
Happy belated, bro. Hell yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, I'll be here next week starting fucking, as I like to call it, the evolution of horror. But no, the road to the slasher.
Yeah, I know. I keep on, like I said, I stole this idea from a show called The Evolution of Horror. So I keep on wanting to just call it The Evolution of the Slasher. Like, I'm stealing too much. So road to Halloween. So yeah, man, appreciate you guys in the chat being here. You guys are fantastic. And hopefully we'll see you next week for Peeping Tom.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.